Alright, we are back working on this 93 Corvette. This is the new Corvette that I just picked up, and basically it has a security issue. If you saw my last video where I introduced me picking up another Corvette, basically what happens is you turn the key, nothing happens. No crank, no nothing. The security light is solid, and basically when the security light is solid, that means the VATS system is detecting something going wrong and it's not letting the car start. So VATS for the GM cars, that is their security system. Before that it was passkey, and passkey is basically you put the key into the door lock cylinder on the driver's side, and when you unlock it from the driver's side, that will disable the alarm. So with the VATS cars, and the early VATS cars actually had a passkey and VATS system. So now that you know what passkey is, the VATS cars have a fuel enable wire that go from the VATS module to the car's computer, the PCM. Now that is the way that it works on pretty much all the VATS cars except for the Corvettes. The Corvettes have an ECM with a chip inside it. The chip is what controls if it enables the fuel pump to run or the fuel injectors to squirt while the engine is cranking over. So another recap, VATS is basically, it shuts off the starter if the resistor and the key does not match, and then past that point it also will disable the fuel injectors from squirting basically. So with the F-body cars, the Camaros, there is this GM VATS bypass module. So the older VATS had 30 Hertz and the newer ones had 50 Hertz. I believe that's the way it is. So this is what it looks like. I've used this in multiple F-bodies before. That's how I'm familiar with these VATS systems. This is actually one that failed. It was wired up to a radio through the radio power wire, and then someone else wired the radio in with an amplifier going through that same thing, so it blew the chip in here. So this is a bad one, but this is what the modules look like to bypass the VATS system. And everyone knows about the resistor trick on the key. So let me show you the key. Here is the key for the 93. So it has a little chip in it, and everyone knows these little chips have a resistor. You put it in the ignition cylinder, and then the cylinder reads the resistor value, and then it determines whether it passed or not. And if it passes, then it will enable the fuel injectors to squirt and all that. So this chip, actually, the resistor in it feels really good. So maybe the leads inside of the ignition cylinder are messed up, but the guy did have a resistor in the car already. You can't see. So when the resistor trick through the ignition cylinder wires, if that doesn't work, your next solution is to bypass VATS entirely, and you need some sort of module like this if you have an F-body. If you don't have an F-body, you have a Camaro, I guess they're called the Y-bodies, you need something like this. So this is a chip. This is basically what's gonna delete it. So this one from PCM of NC, I think it is, they basically have this board and it plugs into the factory location in the ECM. You plug your stock chip in and it just programs out VATS. Another way is if you have the cables and you have the software, you can just tune VATS out of the PCM, or in the software there's literally a spot where it says enable VATS, yes, no, something like that. So yep, here's the ECM on the Corvettes, the early LT1s. They're super easy to get to. So we're just gonna take this off. I already opened the screws, or undid the screws, and here we go. Here's the chip in here that we need to get out. I need two hands for this. Push down the two tabs just like RAM on a computer, if you've ever done that. Here's the factory chip. I've heard of these being called chips, proms, memcals. I think memcal is the more accurate because it's a memory chip basically. It's kind of like RAM essentially for the whole board. So let me figure out how to put the new chip in. So I got the stock chip plugged in. There was just the pins up here by my thumb, and it just lines up. Oh, here they are. It just lines in. There's a little slot for the indentation, so I'm pretty sure that's the correct way. It doesn't seem like I can go any other way, so now I just gotta slide the chip in, and you gotta remember someone made this, so it must only go in one way. I mean, it'd be really dumb if it went in that way, so we're gonna put it in this way and figure it out. The chip is in there with the factory chip in there. You have to press down quite a bit actually, so I'd recommend like work one corner down all the way, and you know it's good because then the little tabs will kind of flip over, but yeah, you got to press down quite a bit, more than I thought. So if you're doing it, definitely be careful, but just know you do have to press all the way until it clips into place, and you'll know when it's in place because it won't wiggle anymore. If it moves, it's going to move the whole board. It's not just going to wiggle in place. Alright, so now I'm going to hook up battery into the 93, plug this in, and then see what happens. I will say, when I plug this in, it's not going to start right away. At least it shouldn't unless someone has done some stuff. This chip does not disable the starter enable relay. That relay, you're going to have to bypass yourself by grounding out one of the wires or something like that. But we should see the security light not be solid anymore. That's what we're aiming for. Batteries in. Let's see. Still have the security light. Did notice this has 146 on the odometer. Still has security light on. Not sure what's gonna happen. Yep, nothing. Alright, I got a paper clip stabbed into the data connector. Let's read the codes. H51-1. Seven is air. 9 is 858. Mine's also H64. And then that's it. It goes to 10, but nothing at 10. Alright, it's the morning of the next day. I had some time to think, and I think I was just making a silly mistake. So, let's try it. Still getting an error saying invalid key, which basically means the resistance in the key is not correct, and that chip was supposed to bypass all that, delete that, so we'll see. So I'm going to take a power probe and put a ground in to this. So here's two relays right here. The one with this purple wire. This purple wire is what powers the starter. This black and yellow wire needs to be grounded in order for this purple wire to have a circuit and turn the starter when you turn the key. So what I was doing,
I was just applying ground to the black and yellow, and I wasn't turning the key for whatever reason. I just wasn't thinking. So we'll give it ground, we'll turn the key, and it should crank over. Putting the key into the ignition first. Okay. Security light's still solid, just like it was last night. Okay. Giving it ground, cranking.
My hood fell. Alright, I need to get a helper. Okay. Has a service engine soon, service ASR, which is just like the ABS. It's running, it kind of sounds, feels like it's misfiring.
It does?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's misfiring. So I have the refurbished or the remanufactured ECM in this car, and it just ran the car, so that's a great sign. That means I can sell one of them and get some money back, because these things for the 92 and 93 Corvettes are not cheap. They're pretty rare actually to find one that's still working too. So to bypass the VATS, you saw me put that chip in it. The next step is to bypass the starter relay. On the F-bodies it's called the theft deterrent relay. I think it's called the starter interrupt relay on this, on the Corvettes. So this black yellow, I need to cut this and then give it a ground. So I'm just going to give it this ground right here. I think that's the easiest way to go about this. I already checked. This is a ground, in fact. Black usually is, but it's always good to double check. Alright, so I wired up the starter relay bypass, and now the engine will crank and run whenever I want. So I noticed the first time I got it running, it pulled the service engine soon light. So I just pulled the codes, found out it's saying the low throttle position sensor voltage, which throttle position sensor is right here. I just unplugged it. I was reading up about it before I looked into it, so I was familiar with it, because I've never had to mess with a TPS sensor before. This is supposed to be 3-wire. You can see the blue wire is just cut. I found the blue wire in this harness. There's some more crazy wiring stuff going on over here. Hopefully this is the worst of it. I mean, I don't even know how does that happen. So I'll see if I can get creative and get it to work, or maybe I'm just gonna need to buy a whole new sensor, which luckily this is just an LT1 sensor, not a Corvette sensor, so it won't be too hard to find. Here we go, the two parts side by side. So I peeled back the weather protector thing so you can see the broken wire inside of here. Pretty crazy. I don't know how that happened. The wire looked a little crusty, so maybe they just disintegrated. Whatever. So now I gotta put this in, wire it up, and do it in a clean way so you can't tell. Got it all wired in, got some electrical tape to kind of hide what I had to do. I think it looks good. If you don't know what you're looking for, you won't really notice it. The butt connectors down there, that will need to be taped up as well, and then completely get rid of any doubt of wiring problems. There's still that side of wiring to address, but that's that. Alright, let's start it up and see if it runs better. Here we go. was the fix. It's good. I drove it, did a little loop around the cul-de-sac and parked it. I had the battery from my C5 in this car, and it's too big, so it's just kind of tied down, and I don't want to go fast at all. Don't want to risk the battery falling. This is the little mess it left behind. So this is towards the middle of the car. That is oil. And it just kept dripping. It seems to be coming from an oil pressure line. Maybe the oil pressure sensor is leaking, but the sensor was showing good oil pressure, well above 40, just cruising like 10 miles per hour. At idles around 60-ish, 40 to 60. Yeah, so I think the oil pressure is working. Gotta check out wherever that oil line is leaking or whatever is going on, because that's oil, and the oil in this car is fresh. Alright, so we got the car running. It ended up being that VATS security issue, just like I thought. The security light is staying on solid. I think that's just the way it is. If you really want to get rid of that, you can pull the bulb out or cut the wire or something like that. But for now, this is good. Car runs. It is leaking quite a bit of oil. I think I've lost probably about a quart now, and I've only driven it for maybe 3 minutes. So we're gonna address that in the next video, figure out where this oil leak is coming from. But yeah, thank you for watching and enjoy. See you in the next one.